Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be talking about how education has moved on since the early 1800s. So first of all, I'd like to start to talk about the 3 R's. Well, we all know them: reading, writing, arithmetic, and they've been bandied around for many years. So the concept is, where have they come from? Well, originally, the idea came from Sir William Curtis, who was Lord Mayor of London. It was said that he came up with this concept when he was sitting in a recitation for Greek. And he was thoroughly bored, and he just went, all these children need is reading, writing, and arithmetic. Well, he wasn't exactly groundbreaking. The concept's been around for a lot longer than that. The first records of it were from this man, St. Augustine, back in AD 401, who, again, said reading, writing, and arithmetic were a burden as much as Greek. So there seems to be a pattern with Greek. So these ideas have been around for, 1,700 years now? Well, why don't we just take that line? Well, the thing is, the systems as we use it has been around since the Industrial Revolution. It was based on the idea that we wanted people to work in factories, to sort of do monotonous tasks, routine. Well, we don't need that. What's happened now? Things have changed. The workforce is very, very different. We can now automate most of the things that were previously done by people with very standard skills. Now, before becoming a teacher, I did a degree in genetics. So whenever I talk about change, the person that I think of is Darwin. And Darwin stated, it's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one that is the most adaptable to change. And that is what we are looking at these days, making our students adaptable to change. So where do we go? I've now looked at this concept called the 6 C's. So these are the 6 C's: communication, connectedness, critical thinking, collaboration, creative innovation, confidence, all enabled by a 7th C. I was originally going to call this talk the 7 C's, but I think most of you just start thinking about pirates when I mention that. So, let's start off with communication. Well, this is a brief potted history of communication in the last 500 years. So, down the bottom left corner, you've got print. Well, Caxton's print was arguably the most groundbreaking piece of communication technology of its time. Revolutionized the way we do things. Well, pretty much that was the status quo for 400 years. Then we started coming to the recording industry, the advent of cinema, and we've gradually worked our way up over this century until sort of the late 90s, where we had the advent of the internet and of mobile technology. Those 2 last things are probably the most impactful technologies that we've had upon education. So the way we communicated was by word of mouth. Nowadays, we're using technology to do that. In essence, nowadays we have this, the world of mouth. So, moving on, that's enabled us to have all of these technologies. So, next. Now, behind you is a map. And that map is a link, is just showing the connectedness of people on Facebook. Each one of those lines is to do with friends. So you can see which areas are the most connected on the planet, just by being brighter than everywhere else. It goes to show the world is shrinking. We are becoming more connected to each other than ever before. So, as educators, we should be exploiting this, whether it be between our classrooms or whether it be between our continents and countries. Critical thinking. If I went back to my school days, and to be honest, I was only at school in sort of the 90s, and I remember a lot of my time being pretty much lectured to. Fast forward 20 years, we have a very, very different situation. We are encouraging our students to be problem solvers rather than merely vessels of information into which to pour our learning ourselves. Even Socrates himself stated, education is not the filling of the vessel, but the lighting of the flame. So, the next stage of the C's is confidence and character. We need to encourage our students to be able to take risks. Risk is a wonderful thing. Learning by doing and trying new things. Embrace your failure. Learn from it. Be confident. Now, moving on. There's 3 companies on the board. What do they have in common? They each allow time for innovation. The percentages indicate how much of the time each employee is given to just go and pursue projects of their own interest. 3M, 15%, HP, 10%, and Google, 20%. Imagine unleashing that in a classroom, saying to students, go and find out things that fascinate you. Extend your learning. Create. By interest, what's come out of it? 3M, the Post-it note. HP, HTML language. Google, Gmail. All of those things have come out of unstructured time. Now, collaboration. There was a recent study done in businesses. They asked managers, can you define collaboration? Well, they found out that 70% of managers had no idea and just said, it's working with each other. Well, partially true. My take on it is basically you're working together with shared responsibility. You're making decisions that have impact and reason. And you're looking to solve a common goal. You're not just merely sitting there in a classroom, go, okay, we've got this one task to do. Now, again, I'm going to quote someone that was meant to be Darwin. Darwin was alleged to have said this, but in essence, it really wasn't. In the long history of humankind, those who have learned to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed. And this is the final thing we're going to talk about. Back in the 60s, Kennedy stated that he wanted to put a man on the moon by the end of the 60s. They succeeded, 1969, July. Now, this was about harnessing a common goal as a nation. And it was done achieving 64K of memory. So I said the 7th C was enabled by technology. Now, if you just look at those mobile phones in your hands, those mobile phones you hold are 20,000 times more powerful than what put man on the moon. So I'm going to leave you with this thought. With the computing power in your hands, the passion for critical thinking and learning, and the collaboration and connectedness that was never at all possible in the past, what are we going to do in terms of aiming for our students? Are we going to shoot for the moon? No. It's far too near. It's been done. Let us aim further. In essence, we are on the start of a new journey into the unknown. In essence, we are at the beginning of infinity. Thank you.